Previously on the Top 100.
This guy goes on to become Super Bowl MVP. America's supposed to be about stories like that.
59 consecutive Cardinal points were scored by Ernie Nevers.
He's such a game breaker. He can change the game at any time.
The single most dangerous weapon on that offense was Elroy Crazy Legs Hirsch.
Willie had that great smile, and when he knew he was whipping us real good, the smile got wider.
Marcus Allen could catch the ball, Marcus Allen could block. He could do everything.
Joe Schmidt, too small, too slow, just the best there ever was.
And he had a temper. He wanted it done the right way, and he was tough.
He was one of the smartest guys I've ever been around, in business, in television, in football.
When he hit these points in his career where it wasn't what he thought it should be, he did something about it.
And now the countdown continues.
I was born in Dallas, Texas. I moved to Austin when I was 7 years old. So naturally growing up, I was a huge Dallas Cowboys fan. We're talking early 90s, the heyday for that Dallas dynasty where they won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. Certainly that takes a pretty strong-willed person. And, you always saw that in Troy when you watched him play. Now all of a sudden here I am an NFL quarterback. And I'm aspiring to accomplish what I saw as a kid.
It's a big night, guys. Let's start fast and let's compete. 60 minutes. Let's go win on 3. 1, 2, 3, win!
Troy had, first of all, that fiery competitive nature.
Hey, guys, we got to get in and out of the huddle now. Get in and out of the huddle.
That will to win, that will to work hard and do whatever it takes to succeed.
That's a damn embarrassment. We can't block anybody up the down or hugging the ball early. Junior league.
Be able to make sure that he's spreading the ball around and he's playing within the offense and playing within himself, but giving everybody the opportunities, knowing when, he's called upon to make the play and he's going to make that big throw.
It couldn't have been thrown any better.
There's going to be those times where, hey, maybe they're frustrated or maybe, and you just have to manage a lot of those personalities from time to time. It's your leadership ability that makes sure you're getting the best out of those guys.
I had an ability to throw the pass pretty much where I wanted. I was always very accurate.
It's a supersonic laser blast from Aikman to Irvin for a touchdown.
I took a great deal of pride in my ability to stay in the pocket and get hit and deliver the football.
Scram even, 66! Scram even, 66!
Had I have played in an offense that threw the ball like Dan Marino played in, or Steve Young played in an offense like that, or Brett Favre, and not taking away anything that those guys have done. They were all great players. There are those that don't put me in that same category because that's not the system in which I played in. I don't think people ever truly got to see the ability that I had as a passer.
Troy Aikman was at his best in big games. He was 11-4 in the postseason. His career completion percentage in Super Bowls is the best in NFL history, topping both Joe Montana and Tom Brady.
Keep playing, guys. Keep playing. Nice job. Nice job.
The fact that my first year in the NFL, I was able to have Norv Turner as my offensive coordinator, who had been the offensive coordinator for 2 of those 3 Super Bowls. Ended up watching quite a bit of film on Troy. That just gave me even more respect about the plays that he made throughout his career. To think that when I was a kid watching Troy Aikman play and win Super Bowls, that I would, 20 years later, be a Super Bowl champion myself and hold up that Vince Lombardi trophy, like he had so many times. That's it's a pretty surreal moment, but one that I feel like maybe from watching a guy like him growing up, it inspired me. It gave me that motivation to accomplish some of the things that I've been able to accomplish at this level.
Joe Gary of the Steelers grabs it on his own 12. Behind fine blocking, he cuts to the sideline, and he seems to be away for a score. But just look at M. Tunnell come after him. He gets him around the collar on the 1-yard line. Some speed.
He was the first African-American player for the New York Giants. He later became the first full-time black assistant coach in the NFL.
They're kicking a 40-yard field, though. That's a long ways. You ain't going to rush him, are you?
No. Not unless
he was the first African-American inducted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But to me, the real impact was on the field. He was a safety who was in charge of sort of roaming and patrolling the outfield.
Watch M. Tunnell play it like Willie Mays. A perfect catch.
Quarterbacks at the time talked about Tunnell was one of the best at faking his intentions, disguising his intentions. Quarterback would wait all day, see that Tunnell didn't seem to be spending a lot of time over in a certain area of the field, and throw there and get burned for it. Bobby Lane called Tunnell the best in the business at that. Because of that, he was incredibly successful at not just stopping the other team, but changing games.
In 1952, Emlen Tunnell had more combined yards on kick returns and interceptions than the Giants' top running back did rushing.
The high punt drops into the waiting arms of Emlen Tunnell, and he does what the New York fans have been hoping for all afternoon as he dodges away from the outstretched hands of the Eagle defenders to romp 72 yards behind good blocking, adding another brilliant run back to his record and a touchdown to the New York side of the scoreboard.
He did the thing that coaches tell their players over and over again, get the ball and run with it. There was not a lot of hesitating and jitterbugging. Tunnell got the ball and found the hole and ran to daylight.
Sidestepping a bull-like charge, Emlen Tunnell takes the ball on the 26. He ducks Arthur Tate's outstretched ice hooks, and prancing like a ballet dancer on a crate of eggs, he skates all the way 74 yards over a sheet of ice for a giant touchdown.
Tunnell missed only one game in his 14-year NFL career with the Giants and Packers. He retired as the NFL's career leader in punt returns and interceptions. 4 decades later, his 79 interceptions are still second all-time, behind only Paul Krause's 82.
You hear stories today about this cornerback or this safety doesn't have many interceptions because quarterbacks don't test him. Well, that was certainly the case with Tunnell, and yet he still was the NFL career leader in interceptions when he retired. He didn't wait for the game to come to him. He went and made plays. And that idea that you could have a game breaker on the defensive side of the ball more or less originated with Emlen Tunnell.
The thing that really impressed me about Bruce was his feet. For a guy his size, at about 6'4", 315 pounds, he had very, very nimble feet. He had a very low center of gravity. Never really got knocked out of technique. He was always balanced, always square, and that's something that's very, very important for an offensive lineman to be successful. You know, Bruce was kind of a laid-back, quiet guy, but he was very, very competitive. He could play every position on the offensive line and made All-Pro at 2 of those different positions, and probably could have made All-Pro at all 3 if he wanted to. And running the run and shoot offense, we had basically the 5 linemen. We didn't have a tight end. We asked our offensive linemen to be very, very athletic in some of the things that they had to do. And Bruce got the job done.
And who's taking over on the inside but Bruce Matthews, squishing people in there.
You're just a great athlete for a guy that huge.
Bruce Matthews wasn't only agile, he was dependable. In 19 years with the Oilers and Titans franchise, he competed in 296 games, more than any offensive lineman in NFL history. Matthews lasted so long that his former college teammate Jeff Fisher became his head coach.
You ever gonna get sick of this game, man?
I don't want it to really work. The biggest thing was you never quit anything. I had one time, like on a 7th grade basketball team in middle school, where things weren't working out. I knew basketball wasn't where my future was, and I wanted to hang it up. My dad, he was very adamant, explaining to me, what a man of integrity was all about, that once you commit to do something, you finish it.
Bruce was one of those guys you could count on each and every week because he never really had any major injuries. Consistency is very important for an offensive lineman and a group of offensive linemen together. The longer you can keep those guys together playing, the more success they're going to have as a unit, and the more success I would have as a quarterback as far as staying upright and being protected.
Under some pressure, throws in the end zone. Harris, touchdown.
But I got one ball. It's a guy that's been on this team for 17 years.
I would have loved to play more years with Tony Dorsett. I played just 3 years with him, and he's just a phenomenal football player. Tony had moves, so he made a lot of big plays, but he had exceptional speed. I didn't run away from people. He was very tough inside. But everybody said he wasn't big enough. And what are they talking about? The guy's got good size. Tony could run inside with the speed he had at the outside. He could do everything.
Back to the goal line, pass is tipped, caught by Dorsett anyway. At the 15, Dorsett at the 20, breaks a tackle to the 30, down the near sideline to the 40, cuts back to the middle of the field. He may go all the way.
I threw a 8-yard pass out there to him, and I get credit for a 95-yard touchdown. I mean, there's not too many guys that can do that.
Before Tony Dorsett arrived, the Cowboys had a dynamic offense. Yet they lacked an explosive runner to complement Pro Bowl quarterback Roger Staubach.
We kind of went 3 years after Calvin Hill and Dwayne Thomas with, I might have been the leading rusher. Then we got Tony in 77, and man, it was like a godsend.
Dorsett would make the offense complete, but his impact wasn't immediate. It took time for the rookie's free-flowing style to mesh with Tom Landry's structured playbook.
We were running practice and I'm rolling this thing, and our defense, playing the mock defense of the Cardinals,
And so they went, and I seen it broke all the way back across, back behind the center. It will never in 100 years ever break like that. Stay on side. I said, Coach Landry, I got to run to what I see. You drafted me to be a runner. Let me run. I rolled slant 24, and it broke back just like he said it would never break. In 100 years.
He's to the 30, the 20, the 10, the 5. Tony Dorsett, touchdown.
And the next day in the meeting, Coach Landry comes in and he says, okay, Tony's a different type of runner. What you guys are going to have to do as offensive linemen, you're just going to have to put your hats on your guy, and he's going to run to what he sees. From that point on, I was able to become TD.
In 1977, Dorsett went on to win Rookie of the Year and helped Dallas win its second Super Bowl. He became the first player to gain more than 1,000 yards in each of his first 5 seasons. Before he retired, Dorsett trailed only Walter Payton on the all-time rushing list.
He was a great football player. The things he did were special. He's not only in the top 100, he's right there in the top running backs of all time.
I spent 25 years with the Oakland Raiders, and other than Marcus Allen, Art Shell is, in my opinion, probably the best player the Raiders had. And that's saying a mouthful, because there's a lot of them. You think about Ted Hendricks and Willie Brown. But if you're drafting, if you're going to start a team and you're drafting, you say, okay, who do I take after Marcus Allen? Be Art Shell. And we're mighty happy we did, because San Diego had a big defensive line. They had Ladd and Faison, and then, of course, that bunch in Kansas City, Jerry Mays, Buck Buchanan.
Hall of Fame left tackle Art Shell was drafted to stop the best defensive lineman of his day. For 15 seasons, his greatness was a reflection in a mirror. It was measured by the success his opponents didn't have.
I always thought one of the guys that changed the game of professional football was Fred Dean, because San Diego Chargers started moving him around. Now it's a regular part of the defensive package. Find out who the weak sister is and put your best player on it. Well, Fred Dean was the first guy that did that, and the reason the Chargers did that was he couldn't beat Art Shell. He was very tough, very mentally tough, but he was also gifted athletically. He had strength, he had a great punch, he could run block, his feet were remarkable. We had a pretty good rivalry with the Steelers. He and Dwight White had some really good battles.
Dwight White, I enjoyed playing against him. One time we ran a run play, and he told me, "You won't get it again." We come back, run the same play, we gain more yards. That's the last time, you won't get it again. Our quarterback called it 6 times in succession. That's just the way it was. We were going to get ours.
From the Rose Bowl Stadium in Pasadena, California, it is Super Bowl 11.
We had the utmost respect for that front four. Jim Marshall, Carl Eller, but we were not going to be denied by anybody. I mean, you could have had Godzilla over there. We were not going to lose that game.
Art Shell, number 78, consistently eliminated Jim Marshall. Shell was so overpowering that Marshall did not make a tackle the whole game.
The game he had against Jim Marshall in the Super Bowl was just as good a game an offensive lineman could ever have. Jim Parker and Art Shell are the 2 best left tackles that are in that Hall of Fame, and I don't know if you could split those guys. That's how good Art Shell was. He's either 1 or 1A, the best ever to play in the National Football League.
Before the countdown continues, here's a look back at numbers 80 to 76. Number 80, the quarterback that led the Dallas Cowboys to 3 Super Bowl wins in 4 years, Troy Aikman. Number 79, a man with 79 career interceptions, Emlen Tunnell. Number 78, Bruce Matthews. Number 77, Tony Dorsett.
An 84-yard touchdown.
Number 76, Art Shell. And now, number 75.
We're going to begin with a unique new event as stars from the world of football, baseball, and track compete to determine who is the world's fastest athlete.
They had us in all these different sports. We had to do a 40, we had to run around the bases,
Turn wide.
we had to put shoulder pads on and run. Of course, he tore us up in that.
Darrell Green, the winner of the football sprint. Darrell Green, the quickest man around the bases. Darrell Green, who's already won 2 events, looking for a hat trick.
He acted like, oh, it's no big deal, but he came there to win it. He was in it to win it, and he did it.
I was the fastest kid in my neighborhood. I was the fastest kid in my elementary school. I was the fastest kid in my college, the fastest kid in my conference. I was the fastest for the Redskins.
Redskins cornerback Darrell Green was fast. The legend of his speed grew faster. He was born on the Monday night stage, the very first game of a 20-year Hall of Fame career, when Green caught up with the uncatchable Tony Dorsett.
Only one man in the field could catch him. Darrell Green, the world-class sprinter from Texas A&I. He ran it.
Tales of Green's speed soon outran the truth.
We did run against each other in college. He was a world-class sprinter, but he never beat me. Darrell, stop telling the world you did not beat me. Darrell's without question one of the fastest guys I've ever seen. Darrell, I'll give you your props, but you never beat me. I don't want to diminish it, I just want to clear it up.
Oh, I think I found one.
2-2-0, buddy. Make you run fast.
The sweetness of Green's stride was the true source of his speed.
When you're really running fast, it looks like you're skipping a rock on the water. We always call it fast and relaxed because it is explosion, but then relaxed. So when you're running your fastest, it feels easy. It's really strange. So any person that is fast or a sprinter, it's the one that can settle down and relax that actually runs fast. That's why when Darrell was catching people, it's like, wow, he's not really running. But actually, he really was running.
Got the first down, breaks it, 30, out to the 40. He's chased down by Darrell Green at the 35-yard line.
At 5'8", Green may not have looked imposing, but his speed gave him stature.
If you have a hard punch from a small guy that's quick, then that's the same kind of force you get from a big guy that's moving slower.
Green had the legs of a sprinter and the heart of a champion. He put both on display in the 1987 playoffs. With the Redskins' Super Bowl hopes withering in the Chicago cold, Coach Joe Gibbs needed a spark in the return game, and Green was ready.
Be prepared for that right now moment. Okay, son, you're up right now. And in that right now moment, you need to be ready to perform. That was that right now moment.
Green driven back to midfield on the far side. He's got the ball up to the 45, far side 40, a seam to the 35, vaults a man to the 30, breaks it to the near side 25, watch out to the 20, near side 10, he's gone, touchdown, Washington Redskins.
I just saw that as an amazing play for many reasons. Number one, he didn't always return punts. He actually leaped over a guy, he hurts his rib. You saw when he got hurt because he started holding his side. And the reason he could do that is because he blocked his mind out and just ran. and it made it look easy. It did not look difficult. It was like the other players on the team just kind of laid down and let him run through it. And that one play turned the whole game. That's what the great players do. They make it look easy, and Darryl was one of those.
My dad was starting up the Browns in '46, and he brought in Marion. I was 12 years old, and I'll tell you, when you have a hero when you're 12 years old, he's a hero that you have for the rest of your life. He's a hero for me for as long as I live. The great players of any era can play in any other era, and Marion was one of those. If he walked in today, he'd start for any team in the league. In his era, I think he was the best of the fullbacks. He was a big man.
The mammoth Motley, 238 pounds of football dynamite.
He was 40, 50 pounds bigger than some of the guys that were playing in his day.
Motley football's version of the atomic bomb.
He was like Earl Campbell in more recent times, that he was a collision runner. He'd hit people and they'd fall off and he'd keep going.
Big Marion Motley had a great day. He took a handoff from Otto and pulled and galloped his way for 58 yards. Old Mariucci is feared, and you got the idea why when he got moving on this one.
And in his prime, boom, he had a burst to him.
Boom, boom up the middle, taking off like a GI on a 3-day pass. He shows his tremendous drive.
Counting his 4 years in the old All-America Football Conference and 5 in the NFL, Marion Motley averaged 5.7 yards per carry, still the highest career average among running backs in pro football history.
He was a great runner, but he was more than a great runner. My dad used to say that Marion was the greatest all-around player ever. He was perhaps the best pass protecting back ever. He could take these rushers and just stone them. He just stopped them. And he was a willing blocker on runs.
Touchdown number 1, off tackle, with Motley throwing the key block.
He had great hands. The Browns used to run a lot of wide flares and screens. He was a real threat at that. Beyond that, he was a guy who could go in and play as a linebacker, and the Browns used him as a linebacker in short yardage situations. He was considered the most talented of the Browns linebackers. He had the most physical ability.
Browns played for the championship of their league in all 8 of Motley's years with the team, winning 5 titles.
We had some great players with those old teams. He ranked up there with Otto Graham. They were the 2 really key guys at the beginning of the Browns.
It's the beginning of Motley's career that may be his most lasting legacy. In 1946, a full year before Jackie Robinson debuted with the Brooklyn Dodgers, Motley was one of 4 African-American players to break pro football's color barrier.
We took a lot of abuse. Anything that they gave out, we took it, but we dished it back to them. I'd get my licks in. I kicked butts and took names, I can tell you that. And it made them respect us too. So I think I did what I had to do and did it right.
It's been a long time since he came into pro football, and memories fade. People probably don't have him in mind like they have later guys, but he was as good as any of them. I'm pretty selective. I don't have so many of them that I consider super, but I consider Marion Motley super.
the Cleveland Browns drafted Ozzie Newsome, somebody in that organization knew what they were doing, because there was very little that Alabama did offensively that showed any kind of the skill that Ozzie Newsome displayed as a tight end in the professional ranks. This kid was sensational getting off the line of scrimmage. He was very good in contact down the field. He had good enough speed to beat some safeties, and he had wide receiver hands. He was built like a 70s power forward in college basketball. He had a big, long stride. Terrific receiver down the field. I again repeat, there's very little on film of Alabama ever using him in that fashion in their offense, and he turned out to be one heck of a receiver.
At Alabama, Newsome displayed the kind of qualities that don't show up on film, like sportsmanship and humility. But in his NFL debut in 1978, the rookie tight end forgot what Coach Paul Bryant had taught him and immediately felt pangs of regret.
The very first game of my rookie year, it was on end around. When I turned the corner, it was nothing but me and the bleachers. And when I got there, my emotions took over and I spiked the ball. But then it dawned on me that, Coach Bryant might see this. And, you know, he always told us, when you get in the end zone, act like you've been there before and you plan on coming back again. And I called him and apologized to him for doing it. And from then on, I don't think I ever spiked another ball. You know, I just got it and I gave it to the official because, yeah, I had been in the end zone and, yeah, I planned on going back again.
Hagel to throw, fires, end zone, Ozzie, touchdown Browns! Ozzie Newsome with a marvelous catch!
Vintage Newsome. It's batted, touchdown! He took it away from him! Ozzie Newsome took the ball away and scores a spectacular touchdown!
It used to be that the tight end was the number 2 receiver in the progression. You know, flanker 1, tight end 2, wide receiver 1, tight end 2. Ozzie made it tight end 1, flanker 2. He changed it that much. Back then, nobody wanted to cover Ozzie Newsome. He was beating him to death. Yeah, he deserves to be on this list.
He has a lot of room. The 15, the 10, the 5, he's in for a touchdown! Ozzie Newsome barrels into the end zone and the Browns take the lead. Unbelievable.
And look at Ozzie Newsome. His face, his helmet, his jersey is soaked in mud, but he was not going to be denied.
You know, I'm a bull rusher, man. I was known for power and running in there, hitting a guy and being able to at least jack you up or make you feel like, okay, I know at some point I can break you. With him, there was no breaking. He's so big. Plain and simple, I've never seen a guy with a head as big as Jonathan Ogden's. I've never seen a helmet fit so tight on somebody's head. If you saw him on the street, you would say that guy can't move fast enough to get in front of anybody. But when he puts on that uniform, it looks right on him. Jonathan Ogden was so natural, so fluid. He just made everything look easy. And there's nothing worse than when you're working hard against somebody and you're out there sweating and grunting and you're looking up at this guy and this guy's just sitting there with his head wedged in a football helmet, kind of just with a look of, well, gosh, that's the best you could do. So disheartening. Extremely tenacious on the football field, just had that will that he was not going to lose. And I'm not talking about guys that says I'm not going to lose and you lose every once in a while, but then you know, no, he's not going to lose at all. He was great at run blocking, obviously with his size. He can move anybody out the way. He can shield you. He can do all those things. But the tough thing is to be a pass blocker. Being a left offensive tackle, you're the guy that gets the best pass rusher for the most part. So for him to be able to handle a speed rusher at his size, then to be able to handle a power rusher at the same time, it's like, wow. You don't find a guy who can do, all three of those things and make them all look easy.
When you know that you dominated someone, it's a great feeling, really. I mean, you just kind of fall right on them, and the air just rushes out their chest. Sometimes you can take a person out of a whole game. If you do it early, I mean, their mind is messed up for the whole game. That's when you just kind of laugh inside yourself. You might make a comment to them just to keep it light out there. I got him with a nice little rib shot. Oh, yeah. That's that old veteran move, Sat. It's an old veteran move.
I'm bitter. Jonathan Ogden, I'm bitter. You were too good. Made guys like me look bad. It's not fair. I'm blaming your mama and your daddy for the genes they gave you.
Jonathan Ogden was blessed with so much talent, he won a shot put title at UCLA, making him eligible for the Olympic trials.
I didn't know he was an Olympic caliber shot putter, but I have seen him shot put quite a few guys across the football field. So I think that shot putting experience at UCLA did come in handy.
That's a good move, dog. You like that, huh?
He's not a screamer, he's not a yeller, he's not a big talker, he's a laugher. You see him, you think to yourself, this guy is not mean enough to handle the mean guys out there in the NFL. Jonathan would rip your limbs off and they would smile and wave your hand in front of you, wave your arm. Hey, I got your arm. Hey, come get it. Come, you want it back? A lot of times the coach will say, oh, you need to do this. You need to do that. And you need to change this. Against Jonathan Ogden, the coach basically would just say, just do your best, son. Just do your best. When you play Jonathan Ogden, you pray that he didn't get embarrassed.
Before the countdown continues, here's a look back at numbers 80 to 72. Number 80, Troy Aikman.
It's a supersonic laser blast from Aikman to Urban for a touchdown.
Number 79, Emlen Tunnell. Number 78, Bruce Matthews. Number 77, Tony Dorsett.
He's not only in the top 100, he's right there in the top running backs of all time.
Number 76, Art Shell. Number 75, world-class sprinter turned all-pro cornerback, Darrell Green. Number 74, Marion Motley.
If he walked in today, he'd start for any team in the league.
Number 73, Ozzie Newsome. Number 72, Jonathan Ogden. And now, number 71.
When I came to the Dolphins, we stunk. We were a 3-10-1 team at the bottom of the heap. And then all of a sudden, Shula came, and then he brought Warfield. And the next thing you know, we're a legitimate team. We didn't realize how incredible Warfield was until we saw him in practice. Because that's what you get to see. A guy who's not just going out to beat another guy, but calculating a way in which to make this guy buy something that he's not selling.
I came from the Cleveland Browns system.
It was greatly advanced in terms of the theory in pass pattern execution and pass pattern running, even though the Browns during that era employed great running backs. They had great theoretical ideas about how to throw the football vertically downfield. I don't like going into a situation and I'm going to be surprised by something. So I spent a great deal of time studying strategies employed against me. We knew exactly what to expect, and I would run the adjustment to the pattern.
From 1964 through 69, Paul Warfield was the NFL's most dangerous receiving target. But when the Browns needed a high #1 draft pick, they reluctantly traded Paul to struggling Miami. The deal made the Dolphins instant Super Bowl contenders.
Many a time I would see Paul count his steps, and as soon as he saw this guy commit to one of the steps that he gave him, he would turn the other way. That's why when you look at films, you see Paul by himself, because the other guy is still back there wondering what the hell happened just then. His uniform was always clean. In other words, he didn't get banged around too much, and he was always off the ground. Every catch that he made, it seemed like he always went up and got it just before the ball was supposed to be coming down. He would go up and get it and leave that defender. Where I saw him shine was in the game against Oakland in 1970. He was so smooth and fluid, like an antelope. He came in and he did a 360 pirouette, and he left that guy standing here right like that. We were a running team, but we needed to throw. You had just as much to worry about then, too. When they line up and we see one guy covering Warfield, all of a sudden you see Greasy going, 40, 40. And hey, all of that is off. We're throwing it to Paul. In 73, he only caught 26 balls, but 10 were for touchdowns. During our championship runs, he absolutely brought to us another weapon that people had to fear, but they couldn't stop it. He was one of the key parts that allowed us to be successful in the 2 years that we dominated the National Football League.
On the next episode of the Top 100.
Sometimes in football, you'll get a real gifted player that might cause a change in football.
Every field or court he's ever stepped on, he's been the best athlete.
There may never be another guy like him. Ever.
Oh my gosh, what a run!
The countdown to the greatest player in NFL history continues when numbers 70 to 61 are revealed. Next time on the Top 100.